It's great to speak with you today, Heather. Um, this is going to be an interesting interview today, and I know you have a startup company called KidBacker. So my first question is, what is KidBacker?
KidBacker is an online virtual innovation hub for students ages 13 and older. And we also have a complimentary 501c3 we just launched called KidBacker Foundation for Entrepreneurship.
Oh, that's interesting. Why did you start the company?
Well, it's actually the story is I like to call it peeling the onion. One is just personally, I really have always loved inspiring entrepreneurship in young kids. I was a little entrepreneur myself. But my daughter, one day, we were out for brunch here. We live in Florida in Sarasota, and we're out for brunch. And she said to me, "Mom, I want to get a job." And she was 8 at the time. And I started laughing, saying, "You don't need a job. What are you going to do?" And she says, "Well, I want a job because I want to help pay for college." And again, I said, "Well, I have that covered. Don't worry." And my husband looked at me and said, "You're really actually not really doing the right thing right now. Why aren't you encouraging her to learn about what it means to make money?" And I thought about it, and I thought back to when I was younger, and I, did pretty much anything and everything to make money. Everything from washing cars to working at the deli when I was 14 years old to, through college had 4 jobs. I just always, and I loved doing it actually. It wasn't because I had to, I wanted my own independence. So she and I sat down, walked through a plan to host a lemonade stand across the street from the beach. And I just realized how much fun I had as an adult teaching her everything from, how to price out your product and your budget and how to find, the right place to get traffic. And I just said, why aren't other parents doing this? And that corresponded to where I was at the time, which I was president of a group called the Manufacturing Leadership Council. We had a group of very senior level executives in manufacturing, supply chain operations, CIOs, CEOs, and COOs across, around the world. And no matter what discussion we started, whether it was integrating your supply chain into operations or big data and analytics, it always boiled down to a real big pain point they have and had at the time and continue to have is the skills gap. And the skills gap isn't only about STEM and about the idea of how do we get kids interested in manufacturing, but also this entrepreneurial mindset. Today's global economy and the way the world operates, there is no longer this singular linear job. It's a job that requires risk-taking, creativity. So I looked at those 2 elements and said we absolutely need a new way to engage young people in entrepreneurship that's exciting, that's virtual, that allows them to actually do what they want to do instead of simulating it, and that's how KidBacker got started.
Oh, what challenges did you face?
Oh boy, a ton. So, one, I actually just gave a speech on this to some women who were looking to get into entrepreneurship. I think the biggest challenge for me was going from being an intrapreneur, i.e. someone who works for somebody else but is highly entrepreneurial, that is, that's me, to actually being an extrapreneur, i.e. outside of a company, doing it on your own. I was a phenomenal delegator and I could create strategy and say, okay, you guys do this and you do that, and we got it done. When you do it, when you're an entrepreneur doing a startup, you're doing it completely by yourself, and it takes actually some time to learn how to not want to delegate. So I got burned quite a few times delegating to vendors. I learned how to do things on my own, filling in skills gaps. So that was, one big learning for me. I think the other one was pivoting. And I've always been very flexible and been able to, understand when we're making a mistake and, turn that mistake into a positive solution. But when you're doing a startup, and I've been self-funding this until recently, your pivoting it's a very scary thing. I put all this money into this already. If I move and I change direction, what's going to happen? And you just have to just do it. And so I've been learning how to pivot, and we pivot every day in small ways, but it's actually part of it. What was scary is now very exciting. And I would say the other part that I learned is, it's petrifying to go out on your own and no paycheck. And again, taking all your savings into trying to create something great. I think learning how to deal with that anxiety and fear at my age, which I'm 46, was a challenge. So I just try not to think about it.
And do you have any recommendations for parents?
Parents, one of the big things that people don't realize is that this generation, and the lingo is Gen Z. It's the kids who are not yet in college, but will be very soon. And then what I call the tail end of the millennial generation, those are the kids who are in college right now. This is going to be the largest, biggest, most significant generation of entrepreneurs the world has ever seen. Entrepreneurship for these kids is the new hero sport. They are doing it already. You see them on YouTube. You see them developing gaming apps and selling them. You see them developing makeup lines and products. It's phenomenal, and it's just going to continue to increase. So I think for parents, one is let them do it and find ways to encourage them. And if you don't know and you're not an entrepreneur, most parents aren't, find places or forums in which your kid can actually get engaged. There are so many ways for them to explore that. I think the other thing is, if your kid has an opportunity to get an internship, that internship is so important. You do it, and it's not school comes first. School is now merging into learning how to work, collaborate, be part of a team. So those are two big recommendations I have.
Thanks. And can you provide a brief background of yourself?
So I was born and raised in the New York, New Jersey area. I actually came from a family of B2B publishers. Thomas Publishing Company was founded by my great-grandfather in 1898. Still family owned. So I grew up with this media background and love for manufacturing, by the way. I went to Georgetown, graduated, lived abroad in Spain, worked there, but always had this urge to do my own thing. I ended up going back to the family business in 2000, and over the course of a decade and a half, ran and launched and founded multiple business units for Thomas in the area of manufacturing and technology, managing automation, manufacturing enterprise communications, tech match, manufacturing leadership council. So that is my bailiwick. So KidBacker is leveraging a lot of my skills, including a network that I have, the understanding of how media works, audience aggregation, community development, and how to, this idea that content is a huge way to engage and educate. So that's my background.
And thanks for sharing today, Heather. And I think this will be of interest to the supply chain community.
Well, thank you so much. And I know the supply chain community well, so it's a real delight to be a part of it today.
Thank you.
Thank you.